Welcome to Worlds Collide, a wrestling card podcast for wrestling fans by wrestling fans, featuring Tony Vella from WrestlingTradingCards.com.
This is like a stock market.
And Zhan Morning from Wrestling with Cards on YouTube. And I'm not saying there's a right or wrong answer, I'm just posing the question. Join them as they navigate the world of wrestling cards, helping you build a bigger and better collection and making some money along the way. What's up, everybody? Worlds Collide back again, and it's been a long time since we've done a roundtable episode, and it's been a long time since these guys have been on it, but it's also been the first time that we've got I'm going to say, I'm the odd man out here. I'm going to say three OGs. You know, there's a lot of Twitter experts out there that we're seeing pop up out of the woodwork, but here's three guys that have been doing this for years. So, Paul, we'll let you kick it off. Welcome.
Hey, man. Nice to see you. This is my first time on Worlds Collide, if you can believe it. You know, I've listened to how many episodes so far? 60, 70 episodes?
Something like that, yeah.
You know, haven't missed a one, and I'm pleased now to join Chuck to be in that elite sort of group of guys that have done everything. I've been on Tony's show, your show, this show, Five Tool show. So great to chat wrestling cards. Love it.
Absolutely. And with what we're going to talk about today, I think, you know, both of you guys are perfect people to have on. Chuckster, how's it going?
I'm doing good. This is the first time I think we've had almost all of the WTC guys all on one show.
Yeah, that's why I said I'm the odd man out. I'm basically just hosting this shindig. And the new guy to the show, Tony Vella, his first time guest. Welcome.
Finally. Been invited to the show. About damn time.
What took you so long to get here?
You know, just life interferes.
You know.
So today we're going to be talking about cards that only have one card. So if you want to say it's their only rookie card or it's their only card. And this was actually brought to us, if many of you guys are listening to this on Twitter, Wrestling Card Guy at AEW Card on Twitter. This was actually his idea. It was brought up in a discussion and I was like, hey, let's run with it. His selection, which none of us picked, and we can discuss this one real quick, is Tim Storm. To my knowledge, he had the NWA. He had a card in that. And ironically enough, I was actually at one of Tim Storm's first ever professional wrestling matches, which is just kind of another oddball fun fact to throw out there while we're talking about this card. Is that his first card? Are we missing something? Because I think something we need to debate as we're going through these names.
I don't know.
Tim Storm. I had to think for a second when you said Tim Storm.
Yeah, he's got that NWA Power card, and I can't think of another card that he has since then. So, or before.
That's not really a shot card. That's more of a drawing card too, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's the animated one, isn't it?
Yeah, mm-hmm.
That's the only one.
Or any others of his either.
Yeah, I looked through as many indie sets as I could find, and
nothing in Limitless. That's your best chance because they had the widest, right? Nothing there.
I didn't see anything.
No, so that could be it then.
Tony?
Yeah, I did a quick search on WTC with the Tim Storm, and it's the only set that he's in. It's a 2020 NWA Power Series 1.
Well, there it is. The gods have spoken. If WTC says, that's what it is.
So that's kind of the gist of what we're going to do today. We've each picked a wrestler, and we're going to go through. Obviously, we start with the guests first, and we're going to just debate these.
What other ones did he have?
That was it. That was the first example. He said he was thinking of that card and thought it would be a good topic for the show. And
gotcha.
We're here for the people that listen to us. So I figured I would give him some praise while we're talking about it and just kick a whole show off for him. Plus, he's a member of, along with Paul, of the Wrestling with Cards Patreon members. So speaking of Paul, we're going to let you kick this off. And who'd you pick?
Okay, I actually picked two, but I'll go with the first one. And this is actually one of my favorite wrestling cards in the tens of thousands of wrestling cards I have. And it's none other than the WCW Kiss Demon card.
Yep.
As a kid growing up in Scarborough, Ontario, you're automatically a Kiss fan. And I was a wrestling fan back then. There? You don't like Kiss? Remember Cheap Trick open for Kiss?
Well, I wasn't.
Oh boy, here we
go.
go.
The story before.
Here we go. We're not even talking about cards. All right.
I was a big Kiss fan growing up as a kid. I read an article in either like Hit Parader or Circus or Cream or something like that, with obviously Ego Paul and Ego Gene talking about hey, we just doing a tour of Japan. They love us out there. And our good friends, Cheap Trick, you know, we recommend they go out there and play Budokan Slam. And I said, okay, well, I'm a big Kiss fan. So if they like, they recommend Cheap Trick, I'll listen to Cheap Trick. Listen to Cheap Trick, never went back to Kiss again.
Even the song Surrender talks about getting my Kiss records off the wall. So
That's
even
right.
Cheap Trick, give them a due. Anyways, back to wrestling cards. Now, before I talk a little bit quickly about the history of the card and what's special about it, I want to point out, even though this is supposed to be just one card only, in the wacky, crazy world of wrestling cards, once you get into Japan and foreign cards and custom cards, I also found this baby from Malaysia. Tony, you know these ones, the Hot Top cards.
I got right here.
Unofficial, but even though this is the official Kiss Demon card, this one I also have. I'll just quickly talk about this Kiss Demon card for those that don't know. The gimmick was late 2000s, and WCW did a deal with Gene Simmons, and it was supposed to be this thing where they're going to bring out a bunch of different Kiss characters, and the whole gimmick just fizzled. Kiss performed, it did very poorly in the ratings. I think Bischoff was on the way out then, so there was issues sort of politically as to why that fizzled. But the interesting thing about this card and this performer, he was portrayed by a guy named Dale Torborg that came from the baseball world. His father actually was a general manager in baseball, and he had quite the storied amateur career. And in fact, I don't have him. And when I talk about my second card later on, I do for that guy. I don't have a Dale Torborg card, but there are such things. He was in the American leagues, and there was two baseball cards. I saw them on Twitter. I didn't get them, but I just thought that was interesting because the WCW magazine card was the only official one. And I believe now that Dale's retired, he's back in baseball, and he's like a training coach with the Chicago White Sox or something.
I think that's right.
Yeah, he went full circle on that. So that was my first choice. I thought that's a neat one, and it was a short gimmick, didn't last long, but there was a card that original one. So I thought that's a neat one, given my sort of love of Kiss. Sorry, Tony, and wrestling.
No, that's okay, right? What's a little bit of story about that particular card and those cards?
The magazine cards?
The magazine cards, yeah.
Well, yeah, like they're part of that magazine series from 2000, and it was like sort of neat images of cards that we hadn't seen before. Harder to find nowadays. You don't see those as often.
Super tough to come by. I actually found a few of them on eBay that people selling them by the sheet, but don't.
Yeah, there were 9 up on a sheet.
Yeah.
I've got probably about 3/4 of them. I never finished that set.
I have several of uncut sheets. I have a full set of all 6 sheets, and I think I might have multiples of series 1, 2, and 3 possibly. But they were a pain in the butt to find back in the day. I remember Porto and I were like, just when we discovered them on eBay, we were actively looking for those like crazy. And then we found someone who had quantity on them. We cleaned them out.
Yeah, cool. And they were very cool looking. Like the Hogan card is an image I've never seen of Hogan anywhere else. The Bischoff one, same thing. There's some neat ones. And again, going back to this Demon card, show it one more time. It's still my favorite card of all time in wrestling, because it's a Kiss card and it's a wrestling card all in one. And probably not worth a lot, but still.
Card, wasn't that magazine a UK release magazine only?
Correct.
It was,
correct. Chuck. It was from the UK, from England,
which makes it even a little more rare to
right. Maybe Jamie Stalker might know more about them being in the UK. Maybe he sees them a little more regularly, but on sort of eBay, and I keep an eye out for them. Not religiously, but I wouldn't mind finishing off that set because they're a very cool set.
Yeah, it is.
One thing you mentioned about the baseball that I wanted to mention, and this is something that all 4 of us deal with on a regular basis, and I know we love it. What's the rookie card? Is it the you want to talk about the Rock? Is it the football card? Is it this card? We could say the same thing for this card. Is it his minor league baseball cards, or is it the Kiss Demon card? And like, if you're a Dale Torborg fan, or if you're a fan of Kiss Demon, I say, again, just buy them all, buy everything you can. But you guys know there's those people out there that are going to be sticklers on that. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Nice. Now, should we move on to Chuck, or do you want me to throw in my second one?
Go ahead with your second one.
I'll do my second one, then I can sit back and enjoy what you guys have to say. My second one, and this is a very interesting thing because this is something that goes way back to 88 or something like that. But there has only been one official gobbledygooker card that came out of the living set last year. And it was actually mentioned on Card Foundation one day. They were joking around about this being the only one. And I'm like, no, it can't be. And, I went online, I didn't see anything. And I thought to myself, interesting. So when you mentioned about rookie cards, I'm like, well, how about a gobbledygooker from last year of a character that's been around forever? But once again, in the wacky world of wrestling, if you go out and you look far enough, our friend Nick Gino and his custom collection also has a Hector Guerrero gobbledygooker card. I know what Tony's thinking. I don't count the unofficial ones, but it's here in my hand.
I just liked how you said if you look far enough, because that seems to be the trend with wrestling cards.
Right,
if you always keep digging, you're going to find
I wish
something.
I had the Dale Torborg, because the last card I brought down from upstairs is the actual Hector Guerrero. Like the Dale Torborg behind the Demon. Hector was none other than the original gobbledygooker, and I got a few of his cards upstairs, but I just picked this cross the line auto from TNA. But the interesting one is the only official card of the gobbledygooker is from the 2001 living set from last year. So I thought the Kiss Demon and the gobbledygooker would make an interesting pair for your show tonight for wrestlers. But there it is.
It's crazy to think about that about him, because I would have probably put a small little wager on that he's probably in some of those WWF magazine cards possibly, but you'd have to go through all of those to find out.
I did.
And there might be an appearance of an egg on a card. Like I think if you go back and you look at those sets from around that time, but there's not an actual gobbledygooker card. And,
I can't believe they didn't throw it into one of those 90s sets, or the mid 2000s into like 2014, 15, like Topps would do those kind of weird subsets where they would throw like these moments in time into cards, and you would think like that they would have one, and they just don't. It's crazy that it took them that long to get one in there.
Right.
Well, why would you want to give any more credit to a failed gimmick?
I don't know. It seems like if you, I don't want to like name call, but there's a lot of failed gimmicks out there that still sell pretty well in the wrestling card front.
Well, of course, but if you're a company, you don't want to acknowledge your failed gimmicks.
I was ecstatic to get.
How many Shockmaster cards are there?
I was just going to say, I was ecstatic to get Corey Shockmaster Triple R.
See, there you go.
All three of them, the Shockmaster. I'm like, I got to have that. So. Funny enough, we talk about failed gimmicks, Tony, but we're talking about it. We're talking about gobbledygooker. We're talking about Shockmaster. It's in the lore now, right? The wrestle crap, if you will, or whatever, the stuff that really shouldn't have happened. But if that stuff didn't happen, it wouldn't be as much fun, I don't think.
Yeah, and it's funny that, again, like you said, we're talking about it. And meanwhile, some of the stuff that was probably supposed to have been taken serious at that point, we're not talking about because we don't remember it as much. But Chuckster, you are up.
Well, I picked a really unique card. I've talked about this card a lot on Twitter, and I think I might have mentioned it on one of your earlier shows. But since we're doing a one-time only appearance on card, I picked Mr. Sweet and Sour himself, Larry Sweeney.
Oh, I was just talking to you about that yesterday.
You were? Larry Sweeney, his only appearance on this card is from the Chikara series. Unfortunately, the man passed at a young age, about 30 years old. The man was a genius when it come to talk on the mic. My opinion, I think I mentioned this to you before, Zhan, too. I think Larry, had he been around in today's day and age, he could have rivaled MJF on the mic. I mean, he was like the heel manager and a good bad guy wrestler. I think he only did a very short stint as a face. He was mostly a bad guy wrestler, but he could get that crowd riled up. When we were discussing during this show, I went back and watched a few of his promo clips on YouTube. Man just could fire up that crowd. And I think one of his biggest feuds too was with a guy who's big right now, and that was Eddie Kingston. He had a really big Chikara feud with Eddie Kingston. And another thing he did, which I thought was pretty neat, is he used to do these, what they called strut offs. Like he would do the strut. He would do the strut, and whoever his opponent was in the ring, they would start doing the strut off, and they would see who could do the best strut, and the audience would cheer. I thought that was kind of cool too. And believe it or not, he made one appearance on Monday Night Raw. When I was doing my research, I didn't even know this. He made an appearance on Monday Night Raw. Randy Orton had evidently did a takeoff little skit on Hogan Knows Best called Orton Knows Best. Larry played Nick Hogan in that. I cannot find the skit anywhere, but I find lots of references to it. I tried to do a search so I could see the whole skit, and I probably did see it when it first happened because I was a big Monday Night Raw fan. So he did make one appearance on WWE, but it was just like a one-off little video thing that he did with Orton. I'd love to find it. If anybody out there knows where that link is, send that to me. I'd love to see it. But this guy was just so popular with the indie crowd. He never signed with a big organization. I think biggest he had was Ring of Honor and Chikara was his two big shows that he got into. But
I'll have to go check out those YouTubes, because I love Eddie Kingston. So and I didn't know about Sweeney at all. So definitely, if he was working with him back then.
And unfortunately, he was bipolar and he had a lot of issues, and unfortunately, he didn't make it past 30 years old. But what he left was a legacy. I mean, it's so enjoyable. I just go back to YouTube and watch some of his stuff. He was just amazing. And again, I compare him to an old time MJF. You know, he's what he was to early indie wrestling, what MJF is, in my opinion, now to wrestling. And the only card he has is this. And if you'll notice at the very bottom of the card, look who he's got in a headlock.
Eddie Kingston.
Yeah. Nice.
I just think that's fantastic. There's the back of the card for anybody who would like to see what these things look like. But yeah, this was the guy I chose for my one-time only card. I don't even know of any other characters he wrestled as. And Chikara was big for putting people under masks. I can't find any notice of him being under a mask anywhere. So this, to me, is his true only appearance on a card. First and only appearance, and that's why I kind of cherish that card.
That's the hardest card to get in that set, isn't it? That's
the
last one you got, and
right.
One
of the four artists.
Right. When you helped me get my set, I remember you saying that if you can get the Larry Sweetie, jump on that right away, because that's the one that's going to be tricky. And we've spoken about this before, how helpful the Chikara people was, the girl there in particular. And oh, you're a wrestling card collector. We've got a few set aside just for you guys, and she helped me finish off as well. And I remember that Larry Sweeney when I got it. So this is the one that Chuck was looking for forever.
Yeah, and that's who I got it from too. Was the lady up at Chikara.
Yeah,
and he also has a copy of it right there.
There's only a few I have. So
I got a couple things.
Is that the set, Tony, or is that the whole set?
I only have the first 13 cards.
I got a couple things I want to mention on this. The first thing is I first saw Larry Sweeney just like around that time period that he was popular in the indies is when I was doing a lot of tape trading and DVD trading. So that's where I kind of first saw him, because I would get some of these indie shows that were either like hand cams or like dubbed, dubbed off of DVDs or whatever. And yeah, he was amazing. And it's interesting that, as smart as a wrestling crowd, it seems to be like modern wrestling is driven by the smart fan, so to speak. I mean, look at AEW and their fan base. So you would think that maybe some of them would kind of see this guy, and with the wealth of tools and information that we have on the internet now and word of mouth on social media, that they would go back and watch some of this guy. And if that was the case, you would think like, well, why are we not seeing an indie set kind of do a tribute card to him to where he would have another card? We've seen it with we've seen it in indie companies. If Topps put Bruiser Brody refractors out there, for crying out loud. So, I mean, these companies will do the throwback cards to the, I don't know if you want to call him a legend. Maybe he is a legend in his own right within a small circle, but it's just interesting that with such a culture that we have where people like to, dig into finding everything they can, that nobody talks about this guy.
Well, if Slam Dancer Chuckster goes and says something about it, I'm sure people are going to start going out there and checking stuff out.
And this leads me to one other thing.
He deserves a lot of recognition. So it just watch a couple of his YouTube videos, just kind of for nostalgia's sake. The guy was a genius in the indie circuit, as far as I'm concerned. He was the man.
Tony, how much have we been pushing go back and watch wrestling history? And
all the time.
Yeah. So there's a prime example. If you guys are listening to this, go look it up on YouTube, find some DVDs, however you got to do it.
I've never seen them, so I'm definitely going to, in the next couple of days, give that a look, especially if you did programs with Eddie.
The other thing I wanted to mention, me and Tony just were messaging about this, and we'll just make this quick because it's not what this show's about. But why do you guys think that the Chikara cards aren't getting the level of popularity and love that some of these other indie sets are getting right now?
Well, Tony and I talked about this on text the other night. We were discussing that same issue. And my one thing is, a lot of these guys were under masks, and now they're big popular guys on AEW or WWE. And people don't realize they had that history as a masked wrestler, and probably do not know that so-and-so is is like Orange Cassidy is in that under a mask. And well, of course, Lindsay Bardo, he's always worn a mask, but he was in there for a while. And so I'm trying to think a few of the others. But I think it's the fact that they were masked wrestlers at the time, and really wasn't a big thing in the United States. That was more of a Mexican thing, you know. And I think people were just kind of overlooking that, you know, just because of them being a masked wrestler.
You know, I honestly think, Zhan, it's a sleeper set, and it's going to catch fire. You know, when you think about Claudio is back now, Eddie Kingston, I think brighter days are ahead for him. Obviously, Brody was in that set. I think that, you know, how they go, like Bola was quiet, and then all of a sudden those 3 Bola sets were on fire. Limitless was the big thing this couple of months ago. We always go back to the GCWs. When I missed getting the complete set the first time around, I realized when they did the show, you, Caleb, and Matt, or whoever it was that did the rundown on the whole Chikara series, that, oh no, shit, this is something I need to have. And luckily, by getting in touch with them directly, I did so, because I think, you know what, this is the kind of thing where 5 years from now, it's going to be a hot thing to have in your collection, a complete set of Chikaras. So we got to help Tony now get the rest, right? So that you have the set as well. Because how many there's not many of us, Chuck, I don't believe.
No, the couple of people that actually reached out to me, and I was talking back and forth to, really aren't collecting the whole set. They were collecting certain from it. So a lot of people aren't looking for the whole set.
Just me and you, buddy, as per usual. You know.
That's the only shoe that I know that has a set. I'm sure there's others out there.
I'm sure.
It's only when you count the bonus card, it's only a 39 card set.
Yeah, it's not that many.
Yeah.
Right.
But those last few cards were expensive. Like it was like, not relatively, but I think it was 100 for the Sweeney, 75 for the Colony one, which was, you know, so they weren't inexpensive. But again, I think that it's a sleeper set, and they're going to be treasures down the way if they're not already.
Because I was hitting up Zhan there last night. Matter of fact, I asked him about, like, hey, I bet you probably got a lot of sales for Cesaro stuff since he made a debut and stuff like that. He's like, no,
nothing.
No. Sold about 50 cards in the last 24 hours, and I sold 1. And I went and looked online and checked eBay for recent sales on Chikara stuff. No, not a whole lot listed. Nothing's really sold. Eddie Kingston seems to go for the big money right there. That also tells you how rare that Sweeney card is, I guess, because you don't see it listed at all.
Right.
But you've found a couple of the, you know, Claudio, you found a couple of those, but, you know, $50 that they're asking for. They're not selling for that, but they're asking, you know, that's what they're asking for.
So they're not even getting 50, huh? I'm surprised.
Well, they're you know, there's one up right now for $20 at the time of this recording.
Just
There's one up for $20, starting price, buy now 50.
Keep an eye on
see
that
what
one.
happens.
Curious on
Yeah.
that.
And to kind of circle.
Was that on Claudio, the $20 or?
Yep.
For
Yeah.
Yep. $19.99 for Cesaro one, starting price, buy it now for $50.
Wow. And it's an awesome picture too. I mean, he's got that tie on the shoulder, and it's a really clear, good shot. There you go. And
Yeah, that's it.
now that he's starting to use that Claudio name again, that card could start, you know, getting some love that it needs.
Yep.
To circle back to what Chuckster said, and then we'll move on to Tony's pick. This is something, you know, as I was listening to you guys talk, it just kind of is like reaffirming what me and Tony talk about all the time is, I think maybe people aren't buying this card and they're not looking at this set, actually, now that I think about it, because they're not doing the history. They're not going back and looking at they're not digging into these sets and print runs and all. They're just like, you know, oh, well, does Cesaro have an AEW card? Oh, he doesn't. I guess I have to wait. Not, oh, well, he's got all these tops, or he's got the Chikara cards, or possibly others. Then I just don't think people are going back and studying history enough.
And just on that note, quickly, there's a Steel Town Pro Wrestling card of Claudio that even precedes the Chikara. Tony, you have it on your site. I think I think that's the image I use as well for my listing of it. That's a very rare set.
Yeah, I think Anthony took that image too from the site as well to post about it as well.
Yeah, Chuck, do you have that set? Do you have that Steel Town Pro? I think it's 2004, Tony?
The only one that I know, 2000, around that time. The only person I know who has it is David Porto.
Yeah. Very rare.
Have any
cards? I remember hearing of it, and then because they're up from Canada. It was like, I think Winnipeg or somewhere like that. And I remember at the time, not so much for the cards, but hearing the name just as a wrestling fan, that these people existed. No idea about Cesaro, you know, back then. But that card exists, and you show it. So that's interesting. So when you talk, Zhan, about history, It's amazing what you can find. You know?
Yeah. All right, Tony, you're up.
Why do I got to be up, man?
Because you're the new guy.
That's right. I am the new guy. Well, during this time, I already submitted my card I was going to talk about, which is not a whole lot to talk about because nobody really knows who he is anyways. And that's Mr. America.
Yeah, I'd never heard of him before you submitted that pick.
Yeah. So, I mean, he has a lot of characteristics that remind me of certain like people, but, you know, it's that mask. It's like the old Superman thing, you know, throw a pair of sunglasses on the guy. I have no idea who the hell this is.
Yeah, I agree.
So I'm surprised. There's just the only cards like that. But that's a more modern card. We're talking about the remake of like the Hulk Hogan character there for Mr. America. It's from the living sets like that. I think it's like card number 45 or something like that from the living set. But just a short-term gimmick that they used when supposedly McMahon wanted to get rid of Hulkamania and came back as this character named Mr. America.
I wonder, you mentioned that. I wonder if the Giant Machine, you remember Andre? I wonder if there's a card of him. There might be.
I want to say I've seen some
maybe.
I think I've seen some BBM cards. I don't know
Maybe,
that
yeah.
they were like, again, one of those things we mentioned where they kind of put a subset or put some names in from the past. I think maybe they did that with him.
There is one particular BBM set that has a whole whack of neat stuff of older guys that they show, like the original Sheik and Tiger Jeet Singh, and later stuff as well, like the Bulldogs and that kind of stuff. So yeah, great stuff there. By the way, we talk about that often, as well as the old indie stuff is the foreign stuff, and the Japanese in particular, because it's not all Japanese. There's some subsets within the Japanese releases that have very cool stuff like this.
Well, and a lot of times too, you've got to dig into that stuff if you truly want to find some of these people's cards or their first card or whatever we're talking about. Tony, one thing I wanted to mention, and you would be the expert on this. I never did see any, and I did some research. I couldn't find any, but I could have swore I saw a Mr. America card on a Raw Deal card at some point. Am I wrong?
He is on a Raw Deal card, but not reference. There's no reference to that character at all. It's just there's a picture of him on there, yes, but that's it.
It's not even a really prominent picture, is it? Isn't it like he's just in the shot?
Picture. It's what they call, it's a blue bordered card. It's called an action card in Raw Deal. And it's just a picture. It pictures him like that. I can't remember the name of what it's called, but I know exactly what you're talking about, and I can find it pretty easy.
I thought this card was really cool. Like, you know, the Topps Living set, like I was kind of 50-50 on like some of the cards I thought were really cool, and some of them I was like, eh. But when I saw this come out, I was like, man, I at least got to have a few of those. And if I could ever find a signed copy at a relatively affordable price, that would be a no-brainer purchase for me. So I
had another card I wanted to offer.
Let's go. Let's do it.
I want to say the Techno Team 2000.
Ooh, that's a good one.
There's definitely one of them in the magazine cards.
Oh,
that's
Eric
it.
Watts.
Is that the only one?
1995 WWF magazine, card number 61. It's Techno Team 2000. It's like
that might be the only one. Then you're right.
It features obviously it has they're Travis and Troy. Troy is the son of Bill Watts, and it just never went anywhere. A lot of hype about them. I remember when they came out. It's a lot of hype, and it fizzled quickly. And that was it. That was it for them.
All right. Anything you guys else got on this Mr. America card, or any thoughts on Mr. America in general?
That's a good choice, Tony. What do you got, Zhan? I know it's going to be interesting because you thought of the topic, so you had something in mind before you thought of the topic.
Yeah, and I think it's because I keep missing it. The 97 ECW Japanese with John Cronus, the Eliminators, one of my favorite tag teams.
I know someone here who has that card.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. I don't know how many times I've missed out on this thing on eBay. I guess I put in like, and every time the prices get higher and higher. So I'll get it one day. But I was just flabbergasted that John Cronus is never. I did as much research as I could, and I've never seen him in any form on another wrestling card. Saturn, yes, but not John Cronus.
That's interesting for sure.
Do you think because of him, how long was that character for him in ECW? Did it go through the time of 2000, 2001? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then he went into XPW and was doing the same thing. Obviously, there was no XPW cards, but
which is amazing because you would have thought that of all the series they put out for the action figures and put out things that tie like stickers and tattoos and trading cards, that he wasn't featured in any of that.
Right. Yeah. I think he was in ECW up through like 99, 2000, and then you immediately saw him in XPW. So he was in that time frame where they could have still done merchandising stuff, I think.
Crazy.
Very interesting.
But all you guys have that card, right? Just I'm the only one that's missing it.
No, I don't.
Nope.
I don't.
Oh, really?
I don't have that ECW set.
I
Of
don't.
all the
think so.
sets that I have, that's one. Chuck has it, but that's one that I never got the Japanese version of the ECWs.
Only card I have from that set's a Raven.
And it's rare for me to say that, as you guys know. There's the Rax roast beef, that set, the poppies. There's very little, but those few cards have eluded me. And they came up. It was at Westmore. Someone recently was trading them, or they turned up, and I'm like,
No,
wow.
I think Rich did, didn't he? Wasn't Rich?
Was it Veligan? I can't remember,
Yeah.
but they just recently they came up and they traded hands, and I thought, wow, it's the first time I've heard of them probably in like the 15 years that they've actually been available. So it's like Rax roast beef. If they would turn up, I'd be like, oh my God, right?
Yeah. Chuckster, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say that set that came up for trade was actually even missing one card.
It
It wasn't
was.
even complete. Yeah.
They had 8 of the 9 cards.
I think it was missing the Raven card.
Of course.
That ended up with you somehow. Now, Chuck, are you aware of anybody else that has a complete set?
Nope.
Yeah,
I think,
I've never seen it posted by
I
anybody
think-
in their entirety.
I want to
And
say
it's-
Cardona or Myers has one.
Yeah.
I think one of those guys does, but that's
good for them. Good pickup for sure.
Yeah.
That's another one.
When they first came out, I think I paid like $35 for the set.
Wow,
I mean,
I can't wait to see you next month, sir, so I can stab you. All right.
yeah. 3 of us are going to Atlantic City. Only 2 of us are coming back.
That's right.
Hey, and we're going to close the show out here. Let everybody know where they can find you, but also plug that if in case anybody's going to be at the National, where they can find you. Paul, we'll let you get started.
Yeah, come to the National, guys. It's the 27th of July. I don't know when this is airing, but it might be pretty close to that time by the time it hits. We'll be putting out updates as to where you can find us and what we're going to be doing. And Chuck, Tony, and I are going to be covering the National extensively. We're going to do little segments talking to different people about wrestling stuff. And, we're just trying to pound the flesh a little bit. We've done a great job online, and you and Tony have been sort of the leaders of that, bringing content to the masses digitally. But we want to, I think you guys know, I went to the indie event this past weekend, and I was giving out those cards. And the kids loved them. There's one kid running around trying to get the Undertaker, and I'm thinking, yeah, we got to do more of this. Explain that, wrestling cards are out there, and people dig them, and people are keeping them. So, the National. My name is Paul Anand. I run a site called The Wrestling Card Price Guide, WCPG, we call it for short. On Twitter, card_guide. And that's
Acronyms,
me.
man.
Huh?
Acronyms, I tell you. Okay.
Well, The Wrestling Card Price Guide, WrestlingTradingCards.com. We got to put it down. Chuck, tell us about you.
I just hang out on Twitter under Chuckster. That's about the only place I am these days. I have a
When he's
Discord
not hitting the club slam dancing, let's get that clear.
too, but I'm not.
Atlantic City, look out. We don't know, huh?
Oh boy.
Atlantic City might have some slam dancing clubs down there.
Yeah.
That's it. Just Twitter.
Hey, he's also the lead archivist for WTC. So remember that, okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Great
Thanks
job.
for doing all the work on the site,
Thank you.
Tony.
Man.
You want me to plug for you?
Everything's WrestlingTradingCards.com, man. As we know, all social media links for everything that we do, where we're at, it's all on the bottom of every page on the site. So check it out. Go to the YouTube channel, subscribe, and come hit us up, man, at the National. We're gonna have a lot of fun there.
I was actually going to do that for you because I've almost memorized your spiel now at this point. So maybe next time. You can find me
I don't need it anymore.
at Zhan Morning on all social platforms, Wrestling with Cards on YouTube, and the Wrestling with Cards solo podcast. But more important than that, thank you for listening to today's show. And if you enjoyed our content, please subscribe, leave us a review, no matter what podcast platform you're listening to this on, and spread the word about the show. That's, again, Paul kind of said it, me and Tony and everybody else that's doing any form of content, whether it's written, video, audio, it doesn't matter. We're all just trying to keep pushing the hobby forward and getting more people in it. So share the show with anybody you think would like it. And thanks for listening. And thank you guys for joining.
Thank you, Zan.